Okay, let's go ahead with our authentication application. So far we have used the JDBC authentication in our application like this, that auth.jdbc authentication dot data source. There is one more way, and that is most popular way of implementing the user authentication in the Spring Boot, which is known as the user through the user detail service. Okay, so in this video we are going to implement the user authentication with the help of user detail service. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do that we are going to use the MySQL database for this demonstration. So I'll be creating a model uh, for that, so that the table would be created in the backend. So I'm going to create a new model called user. This user model would have a few fields like the field name, that is a username. Okay, so let me write everything over here. That okay, before that let me mark this class as entity. So it will ask me to add the public key over here. Okay, not public key, primary key. Okay, so here I'm adding that field access and everything over here, right? And here let me declare few variables like string, private string, username, okay, private string, password, okay, then private string email, okay, private string email validation token. This particular token will be used at the time of user registration, so we are declaring it right now. Okay, otherwise we could have declared it at the end also. Then we are going to have private string, sorry, boolean active, just to check whether the user is active or not. Then we are going to have two more fields, that is private string ct. Obviously this is not required, but we are going to use this particular fields for the validation purpose later on. Okay, so integer pin code, okay, or a zip code. Let me write a zip code, so that there should not be any error. Yeah, zip code. Okay, so we have declared this total 7 field variable members over here along with the id. So altogether there are 8. Let me have the getter and setter method over here. So I'm generating the getter and setter methods. Okay, so getter, setter, I'm selecting all. Let me click on OK. So all the getters and setters methods are added over here, okay, in the user entity class. Now let me create a repository, and this repository will be the user repository, which will help us to do the operation related to user entity with the backend database. And of course the type of this user repository will be interface. Okay, so public interface user repository extends JPA repository. So this JPA repository would have the generic arguments like the class which we want to refer. Okay, so public interface user repository extend. Why the JPA repository is not coming? Let me check. JPA extends public interface repository JPA repository is over here, right? And then the argument would be user and the type of primary field. Okay, that is the long. Okay, and here we require to declare one method, that is the find by username with the argument that is string username. Okay, we are ready with the repository as well as we are ready with the entity class. Now let's go to the let's create a new class called user service. Okay, this will be the class itself. So I'm giving a class name that is my user details service. Okay, and this class must implements the interface called user detail service. Okay, and as this is the interface, we must have to implement the method which is declared inside that. So the method is the load user by username. I'm clicking on OK, right? And here that the username will be passed. This username will be come from the client form, right? And I must have to mark this class with the annotation called service. Okay, then here what are we doing that let me auto wire the repository as I'm going to fetch the user record from the backend database. So I'm auto wiring user repository, right? And here I'm going to use this repository to get the reference of user. So user is equal to user repository dot the method which we have declared over there, that is find by username. It requires one argument, that is the username. That is what I'm writing over here. Okay, and I must have to import this user, is the user class which we have created, and here we are going to return the new inbuilt Spring Boot user, that is user details dot user, and there I'm going to specify various arguments. The first argument would be user dot get username, second argument that is user dot get password, the third argument is true, fourth is also true, right? So the fifth one is true, the sixth one is also true. You can refer the documentation that these four fields referring the is user unable, is account non-expired, is credential not expired, and is account not locked. Okay, and last one is the role which are assigned to the logging to the user whose record is there in the database. So for that I'm using arrays and as list. Then I'm going to create the object of new simple granted authority, and the role which I'm specifying over here is the manual role. This is not coming from the database. Here I'm assigning the manual role. Let's say the role name is admin. Okay, and that's it. So we are ready with the user detail service. Okay, so now what else we have to do? Okay, there are a few errors. Let me correct the error. So it says that there is error over here. Okay, let me check what the error is. Yeah, here there should not be semicolon. Okay, so now there are no errors. Now in the application.properties I have to disable this, the properties related to the S2 database, and I'm enabling the properties related to the Spring Boot, sorry, MySQL server database. And guys, please make sure here you should have the localhost or the IP address of your machine followed by the database name which we have over here, and finally if the database is not there, then you must have to write this, that to create the database on the fly. So we are ready with the MySQL property, and then we have to go to the form.xml, and there I have to check whether it is the dependency of the MySQL and the dependency of JPA is there or not. If both are there, then please comment out the dependency of the S2, as we are not going to use it right now. Let me execute the Maven. So it will update the required dependency, and finally I'm going to run the application, and the application should run successfully. So running the application. Okay, so the application started successfully. Now we'll go back to the browser and let's try to refresh this. Okay, so it is like not asking for the username and password. It's okay. Let's first log out from the system. Okay, I'm logging it out, and here now it is asking me for the username and password. But right now, if you will go to the database, backend database, there is no information available about the user, like username and password. So even though if you will provide the username details like admin and the password pass, right, it is not going to allow you to the login. Okay, so let me go back to the database, opening the MySQL server, workbench, and there I'm going to add the information into the backend database. Okay, so let me go to the student database, table, user, let me select the rows, and here I'm going to provide the values like 1 active, let's say 1. Okay, city, let's say ABD, Ahmedabad. Okay, then email a@b dot c. Okay, email validation token, that is 0000000. Password, let's say admin, and the username, let's say admin. Zip code 00000. Okay, and let's save it. Okay, so if I will close that, then it will ask me to save. Okay, let me execute that, and it says that there is an error. Okay, no problem. Let's copy this insert into statement and paste it over here, right? Okay, let me paste it over here and remove this b from everywhere. Okay, so that it will work. Remove this b from here, 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 here. This B stands for binary, and all the fields are not binary, but all are varchar. So let me run it. Now it should execute successfully. Yeah, it has executed successfully. Let me select the rows, and the data is available over here. Okay, let me go back over here, and now if I provide the username and password, that is admin, now it should login me to the system. Okay, it is not taking me to the system. What is the reason? That is admin. Okay, admin, let me click on that. Okay, I think that I have to restart the application once again. Okay, nothing has been fetched. Okay, so that is the issue. Okay, so I'm restarting the application. Actually, whenever the login process is going to be happen, at that time the record should be fetched. Why the record should be fetched? Because here inside this my user detail service, we have mentioned that we get the user information from the backend. Okay, and let me do refactoring over here. That this my user detail service should be there in some good appropriate package. So let me create a package called service, and I'm going to put the class inside this package. There is a service package. Okay, I have done minor that refactoring of the code. Okay, let me go back, let me refresh this. Okay, asking for the username and password, admin, hitting enter. Okay, I forgot one more thing that I supposed to do over here in the security config, right? So what I have forgotten, I don't require this data source, and here instead of this auth.jdbc authentication, now I require auth.user service authentication. Okay, so for that, first thing is that I must have to auto wire. I'm auto wiring, and here I'm just declaring a user detail service where our authentication related implement logic has been implemented. And here I'm going to remove this, and instead of that I'm going to write auth dot user detail service, and another argument I'm going to provide user detail service. Okay, and let me run the application. Now, the application should allow me to authenticate the user. Okay, so the application started successfully. Let's go back to the Explorer and provide the username and password, admin. Okay, and let me click on sign in. It should give me the page. Yeah, it is giving me the message that login logout. Obviously this is not going to work as uh, I have not defined that login and logout mapping inside that security config. So let me run this. Okay, and here you can see that we are getting the page. Okay, so let me first log out this, log out from this, not this one, log out. Okay, no, not this. Let's go to the incognito. Localhost colon 8080. It is asking me for the username and password. Okay, and it is displaying the correct one. That's it for this video.